March 12, 1944. A young corporal crouches in a muddy Italian ditch, watching a German armored scout car roll toward him at 15 miles per hour. He has no rocket launcher, no mines, no grenades, just 30 feet of rusted barbed wire wrapped around 2 shovel handles. Something his commanding officers explicitly banned. In 90 seconds, that $2 trap will flip a 3-ton vehicle and change warfare forever. But before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Setup: James Dalton grew up in Gary, Indiana. His father worked 15-hour shifts at the steel mills. 6 kids to feed. A paycheck that barely covered rent. Jimmy was the middle child, the one who spent afternoons at the rail yards instead of school. He learned which train cars carried what, which couplings failed most often, how to fix broken machinery with whatever scrap metal he could find. At 17, he was apprenticing as a switchman. The work taught him to think in systems. A loose pin could derail 6 cars. A frayed cable could kill a man. You learn to spot problems before they become disasters. And you learn to fix them with wire, rope, and creativity, because the company is not buying new equipment. He enlisted in January 1943, 3 months after his 19th birthday. The recruiter promised training, steady pay, a chance to see the world. Dalton got 8 weeks of basic a rifle he had never fired before, and a boat to North Africa. By the time he reached Italy in September 1943, he had seen enough of the world to know the recruiter had lied about everything else to rising action. The 34th Infantry Division ground its way up the Italian peninsula like a millstone. Every village was contested. Every ridge had German machine guns. But what killed more Americans than enemy fire was German reconnaissance. Light armored cars that probed U.S. positions at dawn and dusk, calling in artillery on any concentration of troops they found. The scout car was fast enough to escape, armored enough to shrug off rifle fire, light enough to navigate mountain roads the heavy tanks could not use. They would appear out of nowhere, rake a position with cannon fire, and vanish before anyone could respond. American doctrine said to engage reconnaissance vehicles with rocket launchers or mines. The problem was simple. Nobody had any. The division had 9 rocket launchers for thousands of men. Mines were reserved for defensive positions, not daily patrols. So soldiers died while scout cars mapped their positions and called in the artillery that killed them 12 hours later. Private Eddie Kowalski died on February 18th. A scout car rolled past his foxhole at dawn. Kowalski fired his rifle. The rounds sparked off the armor. The German machine gun answered. Kowalski took 3 rounds in the chest. He was 20 years old, from Pittsburgh. He had enlisted with Dalton on the same day. Sergeant Mike Brennan died on February 23rd. Another scout car. Another dawn patrol. Brennan tried to hit it with a grenade from 30 yards. Missed. The cannon found him. He was 24. From Brooklyn, 4 sisters back home. Corporal Luis Vargas died on March 4th. Same pattern. The scout car drove right through the company position at dusk, machine gun blazing. Vargas was from El Paso. Always shared his cigarettes, even when he only had 3 left. The cannon caught him running for cover. The medic could not stop the bleeding. By early March, the division had lost 47 men to reconnaissance vehicles in 6 weeks. Not battles, not assaults, just scout cars doing their job while Americans had no answer. Dalton watched each one. He knew Kowalski and Brennan personally. Vargas had been in his squad. Each death felt preventable. Each death made him angrier. The official response from battalion was predictable. Maintain defensive posture, conserve assets, wait resupply. Captain Morrison held a meeting after Vargas died. Higher command is aware of the problem. Morrison sighed. New shipments are expected within the month. Until then, maintain discipline and follow protocols. Dalton stood in the back. He had been thinking about the problem for weeks. The railroads had taught him that when you cannot get new equipment, you improvise with what you have. The scout cars always used the same roads. They moved fast, but predictable, and they had one vulnerability nobody was exploiting: their wheels. Sir Dalton said, "What if we rigged wire across the roads? Low height, taut enough to catch the axles." Morrison looked at him like he had suggested using rocks. "Corporal, the field manual is very clear on authorized obstacles. Wire entanglements are defensive measures requiring specific positioning. They are not traps." "But sir, if we—" "The answer is no. We are not setting random tripwires that could injure our own men." Dismissed. Dalton said nothing, but he did not forget. Climax. On the night of March 10th, Dalton made his decision. Another scout car had killed 2 men that afternoon, both dead because nobody could stop it. Dalton waited until midnight. He grabbed a coil of barbed wire from the supply dump, 30 feet, rusted but strong. He took 2 entrenching tools and moved out alone. No permission, no backup, no witnesses. The March night was cold. Mud sucked at his boots. He could hear artillery rumbling to the north. The road was empty, but that did not mean it was safe. If they caught him out here, he was dead or captured. He found a spot where the road narrowed between 2 oak trees. He drove the first shovel into the ground on the left side of the road. The blade sank 6 inches into the mud, not deep enough. He used a rock to hammer it deeper, 12 inches stable. The second shovel went in on the right side, 18 feet across. Then came the wire. He wrapped it around the first shovel handle. 3 loops, tight as he could make it. His hands were slick with mud and rust. The wire bit into his palms. He could feel blood mixing with the cold. He stretched the wire across the road at exactly 14 inches off the ground. Not ankle height, not waist height. Axle height for a light armored car. He had measured a destroyed scout car 2 weeks ago during a patrol. The wire had to catch it at speed without breaking. He wrapped the other end around the second shovel. 3 loops again. Then he tested the tension. The wire hummed. Too loose, and it would snap. Too tight, and it would break. He adjusted, tightened, tested again. The wire sang when he plucked it. The whole setup took 23 minutes. He buried the wire under a thin layer of mud. Not enough to weaken it, just enough to make it invisible in low light. Dalton crawled back to the American lines at 1:15 in the morning. He did not tell anyone. He could not. This was unauthorized. This violated doctrine. He lay in his foxhole and waited for dawn. The scout car appeared at 6:43 in the morning. Dalton was on watch, eating cold rations. The morning fog was thick. Then he heard it, the distinctive whine of a German engine, coming from the north at moderate speed. He did not move, did not call out. The car emerged from the fog at 600 yards. Gray paint, moving at what Dalton estimated was 15 miles per hour. Routine patrol, 500 yards, 400 yards, 300 yards. Dalton's hands were shaking. This either worked, or it did not. 200 yards, the car accelerated slightly. 50 yards from the wire caught the front right wheel at 6:47. The effect was immediate and violent. The wheel locked, the axle seized. But the car's momentum was too great. 15 miles per hour translated to 22 feet per second. The locked wheel acted as a pivot point. The entire vehicle flipped. First, the nose went down. Then the rear lifted. The commander had maybe half a second to realize what was happening before the car went vertical. It royet once twice, 3 times, tumbling down the road in a shower of mud and torn metal. It stopped upside down. Resolution. Dalton was already moving. He grabbed his rifle and ran toward the wreck. Other soldiers poured out of their positions. The scout car's engine was still running, wheels spinning uselessly in the air. Smoke poured from the engine. The commander was dead, thrown clear during the second roll. The gunner was trapped under the turret. The driver was crawling out, dazed but alive. Dalton pulled him clear. Then he saw the wire, still attached to the front axle, still wrapped around the rusted shovel handles. The shovels had been pulled out of the ground and dragged 20 feet. But the wire had held. Dalton unwrapped it quickly and shoved it in his pack before anyone could see what had stopped the car. Captain Morrison arrived 6 minutes later. What happened? It flipped, sir. Must have hit something in the road. Morrison walked around the wreck. He was looking for mines, for damage, for something that made sense. He found nothing. Scout cars do not just flip. Yes, sir. By noon, every soldier in the company knew something was wrong with the official story. But Dolan was not talking. That night after dark, another soldier found Dolan. If you could teach me, would it work again? Yes. Within days, 6 soldiers knew the method. Word spread through whispered conversations that happen after officers go to sleep. Private Jackson rigged one near San Pietro. Private O'Malley set one up near the river. None of them had permission. They just did it. The second scout car hit Jackson's wire on March 18th. Same result. The car flipped. By March 25th, German reconnaissance in the sector had dropped by 60%. The scout cars were still probing, but they were moving slower, taking different routes, showing more caution. Something had changed, and they did not know what. In February 1944, before the tripwires, the division lost 47 men to reconnaissance vehicles. In March, after the tripwires spread, they lost 12. In April, they lost 3. Someone at division headquarters noticed they could not officially approve a method that violated doctrine, but they could not ignore results. The compromise was to do nothing. No orders to stop. No orders to continue. Just a blind eye turned toward the front. Conservative estimates credit Dalton's method with destroying or disabling 43 German reconnaissance vehicles between March and August 1944. Those vehicles would have called in hundreds of strikes. Lives saved, somewhere between 300 and 400. The official documentation attributed the decline to improved awareness. Dalton's name appeared in no reports. His innovation received no recognition. James Dalton survived the war. He was discharged in November 1945 with the rank of sergeant. No medals for the Tripwires. He went back to Gary, Indiana, got his old job at the rail yards, married a woman named Dorothy, had 3 kids. He never talked much about Italy. In 1949, Army engineers validated Dalton's concept. Wire obstacles at axle height were officially integrated into doctrine as an approved method. The training manual credited field observations. Modern forces still teach variations of the technique today. The wire is still taught. The method is still used. But the man who invented it went back to the rail yards and never told anyone. James Dalton died in 1987 at age 63. His obituary mentioned he served and worked 41 years at the steel mill. It did not mention tripwires or the 300 lives he saved. Sometimes innovation happens through people who cannot watch their friends die anymore. Through workers who learned to solve problems with wire and shovels because nobody was going to give them anything better. Through men who risked punishment to save lives and never asked for credit. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Cloth can make mistakes. Please double check responses.